My husband is currently on a vacation with his mistress and I'm confronting them. Part 2. Final fight with insight. Before the move, my STBX and I had one last argument. But in this argument a big piece of information was leaked on his behalf. He demanded to know why we failed as partners. I'm not sure why he is asking me why we failed if he is the one that cheated. I gave him the same reasoning I gave him months ago when we talked about this. He said that answer was bullshit. How can my opinion or insight be bullshit? Let me explain. My STBX and I were great, before kids and responsibilities. But when other people, our children, and responsibilities, work, bills, house upkeep came into play, things changed. Honestly, he didn't like that our honeymoon phase was over. That's what he loves the most and why his shiny new relationship is so appealing. He didn't like that our money for nights out now went to plumbers, school clothes and the gas bill. Was this another case of being a narcissist and needing all the attention? Perhaps so. Could I have done better to make him a priority? Probably, but then something else of importance would have been neglected. Perhaps if he would have helped me carry the load and took more responsibility, there would be more time for us. I was the parent that went to every school function. I took the kids food shopping with me on a Saturday so he could have some relaxed time. I made all the meals, I did the doctor appointments, I called the repairmen, I bought the clothing, I cut coupons, I tended to sick children, I gave baths, I made plans to visit his family, etc. Long story short, the list of responsibilities he had was minimal or close to non-existent. I just always thought we would, more like I would, sacrifice and work now only to relax and enjoy later. Maybe that was my mistake. But I showed my love for him daily and always did for him. I did more so he could do less and enjoy his free time and be happy and relaxed. Because when he was stressed, the whole house was tense. But that's a story for another day. What this conversation did shed light on was his reasoning for talking to her. The reason I suspected: attention. He confessed she gave him attention whenever he wanted it. Everything was about him. Sure, that's easy to do when your relationship is simply text messages and phone calls. But what happens when it's real and daily? I asked him what happens when he moves there and she starts putting her children first. Or her work becomes a priority. Or they struggle with bills. You know, real life and all. He had no answers. I asked what happens when this fantasy long-distance romance becomes a tough, daily reality. Again, I don't think he thought that far in advance. Can he stay on his best boyfriend behavior? Can everything stay magical when the world stops revolving around him? Looks like he will find out soon enough. I understand I will probably receive criticism for this post. People will say I neglected him so he had no other option but to leave. But let's not overlook the fact that he neglected everything in our life so the slack was mine. This story is not new. Some spouses have been doing this for ages. And what is their reward? The spouse they tried so desperately to give a better life to leaves cheats. Is this manipulation? Is this me trying so hard to make everything easier for everyone else that I sabotage myself? All I wanted was an equal partner, but that's something that I never got. Mediation meltdown. So after weeks, no, correction, months, our mediation paperwork is completed. What a relief, or so I thought. While we had talked previously and agreed to everything, there was one section we never mentioned which our mediator added. It reads as follows: new partners. Each part agrees that they will introduce a new partner to the children only if she is in a committed relationship for at least ____ months. Each parent will inform the other party prior to introducing a new partner to the children. While that wasn't something that was discussed, I think that's an important piece of the puzzle. My STBX does not think that statement needs to be included in our legal agreement. His statement was, that's a conversation between you and I that a court or judge has no business being in. While I see his point, my point was this: we are divorcing. Nothing can be left to a handshake promise. We could agree to something verbally, and because we both have legal custody we could renege on the agreement and deny access to new partners. Having this in black and white protects us both. He swore he wasn't signing it until that portion was removed. But if the mediator included it, then this must be common practice to do in a divorce. So this prompted me to ask, when does she plan to come here to visit? That must be the motivation, right? She must be planning a trip here soon, and he had plans to introduce her to the kids. He claims there are no plans for her to visit our area. Well, if that's the case, what's the harm with waiting 3 months? But let me be clear, to everyone reading, my motivation in this is the well-being of my children. Their father has just left. They need to become accustomed to this new ways of life with 2 homes and visiting hours before we complicate things more with a girlfriend or boyfriend. I've also made appointments for them next month. That was the soonest I could get, with a psychologist to help them process this divorce. Now is not the time to make this more complex. Every parent wants to nurture and protect their children. His AP waited 5 months to introduce him to her children. Why is it not okay for us to wait too then? Changes. I had to sit down this past week and really think. What is more important to me, my pride or moving on? I said from the beginning that I want him to be a father, to be involved and active in their lives. So, we made some changes last night. After a talk, plus an argument, followed by more talking, we altered our custody agreement to give him more time with the kids. I know from the past 10 years that he has never been an active father. Perhaps now he feels the need to be. Either way, I'm hopeful this decision will be a good one for the boys. Now I know many of you may say he is undeserving, but I am making this decision and not regretting it because I know it is temporary. He will be moving in a year or so. Of this, I have no doubt. Once he packs up his belongings and he drives across the country, our arrangement will change. I'm a bit upset the children will become used to having him around only to have him leave in a year. That was a big motivator in my reluctance to agree to this custody change. I have tried to make the best decisions for my boys and I feel like my STBX is just concerned with winning. I also got him to agree to put our new terms and terms for when he leaves, including the altered CS payment black and white in our mediation paperwork. I think the delay by our mediator to supply the paperwork lead to him overthinking and wanting to change the agreement. He agreed in January but now claims he never agreed to it. So I guess our mediator just created these terms which we discussed out of thin air. Okay, sure buddy. I also think his girlfriend chirped in his ear a bit about what he should do. I'm confident he told her what a wonderful and involved father he has been over the years, and I'm sure that prompted her to encourage him for more custody. Little does she know my STBX doesn't even have car seats in his car because he never takes them anywhere. He doesn't know their doctors' names. He doesn't know their quirks and he has zero patience for them, but I'm sure he has claimed to be Father of the Year. Maybe the increase in custody will prompt him to move sooner. He took the boys for an overnight last week and when he dropped them off he was grumpy. He claimed all he did was cater to them, didn't have time to eat and barely got any work done all day. Oh, you mean like me every day since you left? He's not prepared, but it's okay, I'm done sheltering him. These are your kids and now you can see what it takes to care for them and balance everyday life. Maybe now he will see why I never had the time or energy to cater to him. Boundaries. Last week was our final mediation meeting. My STBX claims that the mediation we had in January was not the final. I was happy that our mediator confirmed in the meeting that January's meeting was the final and his changes are an addition. Either way, it's done. Mediation completed. Now starts the actual divorce process. I told him that I'd like to start this ASAP and his response was, I know you want to rush through this but this takes time and can't be done when you want it to be done. So hold on, let me get this straight. You were the one who cheated for months and has a girlfriend, but me wanting to complete our divorce paperwork makes me the one that is rushing to end the marriage. No, sir, you have rushed to end it. Actually, you ended it. Now we are just completing the paperwork, but the marriage was dissolved in September when you started sending her flowers. Or perhaps in October when you started flying to her state during a pandemic to have sex. So pardon me if I'd like to cut the cord legally. You have already severed it emotionally. Even though we aren't legally divorced, he has been taking the kids 3 to 4 nights a week on a rotating schedule. Truth be told, I'm happy he is stepping up, but my children don't like it. When I tell them they are going to daddy's they cry. Because my ex lives in an apartment building and my children have grown up in a single-family home, my oldest son calls his apartment a hotel, not a house. When they are there they miss me and I feel terrible. On one of their first evenings there my youngest called me from his iPad 4 times. I wanted to give them space to be with their dad, but after the 5th phone call, I answered. My STBX was on the computer working, he showed me on the video call, and my youngest was left in his room to play. He was bored and seeking attention. I told him to play with daddy when he was done with his call and I would see them soon. After we hung up I got an angry text from my ex telling me we need to practice boundaries when we have the children and respect each other's time with them. The children were now asking him when they come home. He said to me this is their home as well and they should know that. A few things about this. 1. If you were paying attention to the kids they would not call me. I understand you are working, but I work from home as well and they are never calling you while I am here. I have to tell the kids to call you and even then they don't want to. 2. Boundaries. You have been coming to the house every night on my days to say goodnight to them. So you can come to my home and see them for 45 minutes every night, but I can't answer my son's 5th phone call to me. Here's some boundaries: you can't come here anymore. He is very regretful he brought up this argument because it hurts him more than me. I have no problems playing fair, but you have to play as well. 3. If you want your kids to feel like your house is their home as well, then you need to tell them, not me. Okay, I get it, but they don't. So you need to have that conversation with them, not me. I've just resolved myself to the fact that I will always be the bad guy. The gymnast. I've always been flexible. Well, physically not so much with age, but flexible in situations has never been a problem. My STBX fought me on a 50-50 custody agreement. One in which I agreed to. Our original agreement was for a 65-35 split, which gave him every other weekend plus a few dinner time visits in between. For someone who has never been an active father, this should have been enough. Apparently now he thinks he's super dad and wishes to take the lead. This would have been helpful years ago, but better late than never. He contacts me the other day telling me he will be picking up the kids for 2 overnights this week. Mind you, he is supposed to have the kids 2 days on one week and then 5 days the next week. I tell him that he can have the kids over the weekend as well. This is when he tells me he has several work trips and personal trip to see his girlfriend coming up, so he needs me to be flexible with the visits. Flexible? I thought you were the I need to see my kids more dad now. The dad who needed more time and less time and child support for me with his children. Where did that guy go? The month of April he has had the kids for 8 nights total. And when I mention this isn't 50-50, I'm the bad guy and need to be understanding to his work and personal life. Excuse me, I have work and a personal life too. Well, not really a personal life, but I hope to soon. Why do I have to be flexible to you and you aren't to me? I told him I offered him the 65-35 split that would allow him more free time for work pleasure, and he didn't want it. He said I was steamrolling him into taking that agreement and he wasn't happy with the time he'd have with the kids. Touched that he wanted more time with the kids, I agreed to this, and now that it's in black and white I have to have the kids more and receive less child support because you can't keep up with the deal you wanted. I think in all honesty it wasn't about seeing his kids, it was about not giving me what I asked for. He says I rely too much on our agreement and that it's just a guideline, we don't need to live and die by it. But I think we do. It's a legal document about our children and our assets. So if we don't live and die by it, will you stop paying child support? Or maybe decide that you want things that are mine. It's just a piece of paper, right? For a man who lead a double life, had an affair, has a girlfriend, and wanted out of this house, he sure doesn't seem to want to face the reality of what a divorce actually is. So if he doesn't take the kids for his 50-50 visits, what are my options? Start this process again with another agreement? Take him to court? I think perhaps my best option is to not be flexible, and when the numbers don't add up we go back to court. I don't see any other option. Transparency. This past weekend was Mother's Day. It was a strange day this year, but still oddly more enjoyable than previous years. My STBX has been taking the kids on the schedule one created, and so far, no issues. He has yet to pay me any child support, but I will give him till the 15th till I make a stink about that. The boys were with him over the weekend, but he returned them on Sunday so I could spend the day with them. I asked him while he was here if he called his grandmother yet. His grandmother is the only family, besides his equally unfaithful father, that he speaks to. He told me he spoke to her and that he told her that we have separated. I was shocked. This was a big one. I knew it would be hard to tell her and the news would give her a heart attack. He said she was upset and shared some of their conversation with me. He told me he did not tell her why we split, only that we had. While not the whole truth, I was happy to see that he took this tough step. Fast forward a few hours later. His mother calls me. Her and I have a fairly good relationship, but my STBX is holding a grudge over things from the past and refuses to speak to her. I had asked if she heard the news from her mother. She was confused. Well, it turns out it was all a lie. He never told his grandmother. The conversation he said he had was never actually had. I speak to his sister as well and find out after 13 years together, that this, run away with a girl who'll give me more attention, is his mo. She told me that before me he lied to his girlfriend of 4 years that he was going to spend time with his dad, and it turns out he went away for the weekend with another girl. Now ain't that some shit? My lawyer will be serving him the divorce papers next week. When I told him for the second time that I was hiring a lawyer to do that papers and did not want us to do them ourselves, he got angry. He accused me of wanting to try something shady. No, sir, you have been shady enough for the both of us. When I reminded him that I've already brought this up to him and that I have been getting quotes from lawyers, he accused me of not being transparent. You're kidding, right? He will always be the victim, never wrong and always right. The breakdown. My STBX had the children this past Friday, Saturday, and then again Monday, Wednesday. I went to pick them up today after work, and that's when it happened, the breakdown. My STBX started to cry. He lost it. Apparently, for the past 3 days all our children did was ask to go home. They cried and constantly asked, how long? He tried to tell them that this was their home as well, but they wouldn't hear of it. Now part of me feels badly. It must be terrible to have your children reject you. But on the flip side, he's never been the parent he is now. He takes them places, plays with them, reads to them, bathes them, etc. I don't think he understands that you can't just flip a switch with these kids and they will gravitate towards you. I know he is trying, and I appreciate that, but it's too little too late. I have tried to be supportive and understand them having a father is important, but I honestly don't think they want him. Again, they are both under 10 and young, they don't fully understand. My oldest asked me on the ride home if they could never go back. When I explained that we are both parents, love them, and want to spend equal time with them, both children protested. I think my STBX realizes this is too little, too late. He is regretful. I don't know how to make this situation easier for everyone, but honestly, it's not my problem to solve. I asked him to take a 35/65 split, but he rejected it, saying it wasn't enough time with the children. My suggestion of that split wasn't about me wanting more, it was about what I thought our children could handle. He just wanted to W in and get me to convert to a 50/50 split. Well, you won, here it is. How's that working out for you? Maybe if you would have thought about what was best for them and not defeating me, maybe this would have ended differently. A summer situation. After his breakdown I didn't contact him for a while. I knew he needed time to cool off, and if I talked to him for any reason I was afraid he would get angry with me or even worse, confide in me. I wanted neither. So when I finally did need to speak to him, he told me, we need to figure out what we are going to do this summer. What are we doing? We are doing nothing. I was confused. He told me it's going to be impossible for him to handle the kids during the summer while he is working. He said he was barely holding on by a thread, as it is now. This isn't a problem we faced in the past, as I'm a teacher and off all summer, so I handle the kids 100% during summer months. I don't think he took the summer into consideration when he demanded 50/50 physical custody. So his suggestion was to enroll the children in a camp when he has them. A camp? So you want to enroll our children in a camp from 8 to 6 on the days you have them? How is that spending time with them? So, my suggestion was let's do the 35/65 split for July and August, and he can have the kids weekends and see them in the evening whenever he wants. He was furious. It's always about custody with you, he said. Wait. This isn't about custody. You just said you can't handle them. I'm offering to give up the first real summer vacation I've ever had to keep them to help you, and I'm the bad guy here. Make this make sense. He claims the kids need to socialize. In the past 9 years he has never cared if the children socialized, but now it's a big deal. This was the man who rolled his eyes and complained about having to go to a kid's birthday party for 3 hours. So I left it alone. Let him sit on the thought for a bit. A few days later, to be proactive, I sent him information about summer camps, along with price lists. It would cost between $250 to $350 a week for camp. The camps I found are only for 5 weeks, leaving most of August without childcare for him. How does this help? How is this spending time with the kids? Putting our children in an expensive weekly camp during COVID just so you can give them dinner, bath and put them to bed doesn't help them or your relationship with them. My family owns a house by the beach. I will be down there most of the summer with kids. When I'm home, we have friends we can visit, and at least we have a yard at our house for the children to play in. The children will be happy, socialize with family and friends, and most importantly, be safer with me than in a camp. Lastly, I will add that he has yet to pay me child support for April and May. He moved out in March, took the kids for 8 overnights in April, it should have been 15, and has yet to give me a dime for April and May. But he can afford almost $1,300 in camp fees just to have his custody. Even more proof that his actions are not about what's best for the kids, it's just a competition with me. Again, make this make sense. Get the papers. The papers. I'm officially in the court system, with a docket number and everything. It on its way to becoming official and I am elated. My STBX does not seem that excited. This past weekend he flew out to her state and attended a family wedding as her guest. I'm happy they are taking these steps as a couple because if they are happy he will move and the farther away he is the better. When he returned he was now excited about the divorce, asking me when the lawyer would send him paperwork to sign and what the timeline was moving forward. He was on cloud 9 after his vacation and wished to hurry the process up. The day he was having his share of paperwork notarized was also the day I was going to pick up the children from him. When I got there he was short with me, I could tell he was on the verge of a panic attack. He hurried us away and then texted me later explaining he in fact was in the beginning stages of a panic attack. But why? He told me he was feeling overwhelmed. Between the kids, work, managing a household and maintaining a social life he felt burned out. Wow, this sounds oddly familiar. This was my story for the past 10 years. The reason I didn't go on date nights as often as he liked was for this exact reason. Part of me felt bad because I know what that feeling is like. But another part of me relished the thought of his struggling and coming to the realization that that was my life and reason for his cheating. So, how should I react? After I took a second to think I blurted, "Wow, that sucks. I'm taking the kids to the beach this weekend. See you Monday morning when you pick them up." I decided to give him the support he gave me for 10 years. If anyone knows what movie this post's title is from, then you know, you gotta do what your heart tells you to do. D-Day. Sunday it's happening. The day I've been waiting for and he has been dreading. I'm going to meet the girlfriend. I'm honestly excited. He on the other hand is in a panic. And I understand why. I exploded on that woman on the phone and said some terrible things. And I also understand it's going to be hard for him to hide his lies about me being insane when we are face to face. He texted me a few days ago and told me that he would be picking the boys up on Father's Day to head down the shore with them and she would be accompanying them. When they come to pick up the boys we can have a chat. I'm fine with that. I'm actually relieved he wasn't planning on taking the boys to the shore alone. I don't think he can handle them both on the boardwalk or in arcades. He is very worried that I will cause a scene when I meet her. It's actually the exact opposite. I plan on being myself, very friendly and welcoming. I need her to see I'm not that emotional woman that I was on the phone and in my letter. I mentioned to him via text that I would not jeopardize the good relationship he and I have had recently with each other and co-parenting by being mean to her. His exact words, "I don't need you to speak about what you and I have." But why? Why wouldn't the fact that we are getting along and co-parenting be something she shouldn't know? And then I remembered, he lies. He must be telling her I'm impossible. That I'm a terrible human being. That I'm difficult and unreasonable. How can he make this lie hold water if I'm polite and friendly to her and him? The boys have each made something for him and I got a small gift from the boys to give him. We will present him with those things in front of her. I feel like if I saw someone who was supposed to be cruel and insane do that to their enemy, I'd have questions as well. Also, I plan on packing snacks for the boys and him for the trip. This is something I'd for whether she was there or not. Are those the acts of a crazy and hateful person? I think not. Lastly, and some of you may not agree with this, I'm going to apologize for how I spoke to her. I know she was wrong for what she did and if she ever wants to apologize I'd listen. But, I'm not proud of how I spoke to her on the phone. That was the worst side of me. I think she understands my actions but my apology is not to get on her good side. I want to be the bigger person. I don't plan on ever being friends with this woman but she will be left alone with my children at some point so I'm doing this for them. Also, my selfish motive, if she is happy and feels comfortable with my STBX she will want him to move out of state with her. I want this. So I won't do anything to jeopardize this move. I will update you all on Sunday evening with a play-by-play of our meet. My strange meet cute. Since my last post my head has been swimming. I spent so many months envisioning this moment and now it is here and all the scenarios of run in my head seem like cheesy movie scenes. None of it is plausible. I finally decided yesterday to not go into this meetup trying to prove who I am to someone, but more so just be myself and stop worry about the impression that I leave on her. She has an opinion of me that is clouded by his lies so there is no sense trying to change her mind. So I asked myself, who am I? And then I remembered that before this whole fiasco I was the person who killed with kindness. While that kindness was manipulated by my STBX, I was the one who was in control now. So I did what I thought was right. My children made Father's Day cards for him and then I had them make cards for her. I had them introduce themselves and list one things they'd like to do with her. They drew pictures and colored and all was right in the world. Kill them with kindness. I texted him last night asking what time was pick up. He was at dinner and said he would text me back when they were done. I woke up at 6:30 with no text from him. I texted him at 6:30, 7:30, 8 and finally received word back from him just before 9. Be there in an hour. Okay, know that is settled. What do I wear? I opted for the true to myself outfit, leggings, flip-flops and a cute off-the-shoulder shirt. Very me. Hair, curly, makeup, light but with a generous amount of mascara. It was now 9:40 so we sat and waited. The boys grew antsy. At 10:30 I get a text that his stomach is upset so they ran a little late. Sounds like a case of nerves to me. Then at just before 11 they arrive. I assemble the boys and the gifts and we come outside. There she is, right there, standing on my steps. For a hot second I raged inside. I wanted to say something smart like, "You left me for this." I looked over at him and the look of panic and tension on his face told me that by doing that I'd be the monster he has fictitiously talked about. So I went back to my motto of kindness, extended my hand, smiled warmly, and introduced myself. She was shocked. Where is this lunatic I've heard so much of? Why isn't she trying to claw out my eyes? I can only imagine what was running through her head. The boys presented their gifts to Dad and then gave her the cards. Shock took her over again. Cards that aren't death threats. How? Why? At this point her mood went from fear to pure embarrassment. I must say it was more delicious to watch that shift than it was to potentially pull her hair out. We hustled the boys into the car and as my STBX walked to the other side of the car to get them in I turned to her. Shock and fear had returned to her face. She had difficulty making eye contact with me. I could hear my STBX heart beating from 10 feet away. I looked at her and said, "Blank, I just want to apologize for how I first spoke to you. I was an emotional wreck but I said some terrible things and that was very unlike me. I know my actions were justified but reflected back on that day I'm unhappy with how I acted towards you." Hello Shock, have you met our dear friend Guilt? A wave of guilt took over her as she bumbled through her own half-assed apology. She couldn't say the word affair, instead she said, "What happened?" Own it girl, just own it. But she did end her nonsensical word vomit wishing to have a conversation with me about what transpired. I used the word transpired, most of her words were less than 2 syllables. My STBX who had started to look relieved now tensed at the idea of her and I having a chat. I have already promised myself I won't speak badly of him to her. Maybe I'll just give her a link to this thread instead. Haha, now I look forward to her spending 48 hours with him and our kids. Now she can see the short temper and lack of patience he has. It is going to be very hard for him to keep up his Father of the Year act. I'm sure my children will give me a play-by-play of how their visit went. I will update you all on Wednesday when the children have returned. Thank you all again for supporting me on this journey. Today was a big day but I'm proud of my growth. Part of that growth is from the support I've received from you all. So many thanks. Feudal friends. On Sunday evening I sat home alone, glass of white wine in hand, and replayed the morning over in my head. As I sipped, I let the interaction play out in my mind and tried to analyze the scenario. My interpretation was that she was stunned, he was floored, my kids were indifferent, and I was victorious. I was pleased with my behavior and felt that there wasn't much more that could be done. She would leave Monday evening and it would be some time till her and I spoke again. Then, almost as if prompted by the gods themselves, my phone pinged. Random number with a strange area code. My heart dropped. I knew it was her. I stared at my phone without opening it for a good minute. I knew that opening that text was opening a door I wasn't sure I wanted opened. Perhaps she would just be apologizing. Or maybe thanking me for earlier. Were the kids okay? Or perhaps she would have questions or concerns about him and want an ally. I knew after opening that text, no matter what it said, things would never be the same. Simple, right? Straight to the point. A message of thanks. For a split second I regretted my decision to be kind to her. I took away some of her worry and fear and yet none of my emotions have changed. But then I remembered, I'm not in the wrong here. I don't need anyone to tell me it's okay because I was not to blame. We spoke a bit more and by the end of the conversation I felt sorry for her. She has no idea what she is getting into with him. She thinks he is her knight in shining armor, but little does she know she will have to polish and maintain that armor for him. She was just like me many years ago, blinded by shiny armor that was really just tinfoil. Lies and playing pretend was all he really gave me, and I fear this will be her outcome too. The other side of that coin is that she deserves this. You had an affair. She read in my letter that this wasn't the first time I suspected he was unfaithful, yet she thinks it will be different with her. Come on, sis. You're smarter than this, you gotta do better, girl. After I picked up the boys, they gave me rave reviews about her and their father. It seems they were rightfully spoiled while she was there, and daddy didn't yell or lose patience once. Amazing, huh? My youngest asked me if this was his new sister. I had to explain the concept of separation, divorce and parents dating. Apparently even with his girlfriend in the room, my STBX avoided an actual conversation with our kids. Sigh, some things never change. So while they won knockoff Marvel prizes at the arcade with her and their dad, it seems she has won the biggest knockoff prize of them all. My first second. For those of you that love the dirt and gossip about my STBX, I'm sorry. This is not a post about him. This is a post about me. A little while back I sat in my home in silence. The children were gone and I was in a partial meditation trance, thinking about what I want my future to look like. I'm 38, I have 2 children, a job, friends, gray hair peeking from my temples, a tight family, future schooling for my 3rd degree, a mortgage, cellulite and a kind but damaged heart. Where do I go from here? And more importantly, who would want to go with me? Dating was easy in my 20s. My skin was tight, I could be spontaneous, everything I owned fit perfectly, and going on an 11 p.m. date for drinks was totally doable. I am not that girl anymore. So, how does a woman like me meet a man that will like me? I'm lost. Are there bars, nightclubs, pottery painting? I've seen speed dating on TV. Does that really exist, or is that reserved only for sitcoms? Reluctantly I googled, how to date in your 30s. Some of you have probably beaten me to the punchline, but the answer was right in front of me. Online dating. I cringed. Having no real reason not to, I created an online dating profile. I filled in all the blanks, set my preferences, uploaded a few pictures where the outfit fits right and the lighting is superb, and I published the page. I walk away from my phone full of nervous energy and grab a snack. Chocolate will help. After I eat out of pure anxiety, I return to my phone. I have a message from the app. I'm afraid. I ignore it out of fear and, strangely, guilt. Fear that he may be a serial killer, and guilt because while my STBX has moved on, I feel guilty that I am still legally married and on a dating site. I do the only logical thing next. I go to bed. I lay in bed and try to remember what a first date is like. The awkward hello, is it a handshake, hug, kiss on the cheek, full open mouth sloppy kiss, the cumbersome chit-chat, this weather is crazy, read any good books lately, wow how about the Mets, and of course the uncomfortable goodbye. I don't know how to do this, or even if I can. Do you talk about your ex? Or do you avoid it like the plague? Do you be no nonsense and get right to the good and bad of yourself to not waste time? Because honestly, who has time to casually date at this age? I tell myself to go to sleep. Eventually, I listen. I awake to sunlight, the hum of the AC and a pinging phone. I have a text from my mother and 14 messages, all from the dating site. This must be a mistake. I must have put the wrong age or been too lenient with my preferences. I scroll through message after message and see that these men all share the same thing. They are interested in learning more about me. I sift through profiles like they are resumes for a job and land on 3 potential candidates. All around my age and location, all divorced, all wishing to converse with me. My nerves have no transition to excitement but peppered with a bit of anxiety. This is it, I'm doing it, officially jumping into the deep dark dating pool. After a few days of chatting with all 3, I solidified my suitor. Soon I will be engaging in my first, second date. Wish me luck and will update soon. We've made it to a 3rd thread. Never in my wildest dreams did I think we would get here. If you are just catching this story, then you have a lot of reading to do to get up to date. My apologies. So settle in and see how the story unfolds here. To all my loyal readers, supporters and even trolls, the story continues. Gaslighting or overreaction? Today my STBX dropped off the kids after having them for a few days. He told me yesterday he would be dropping them off at noon. When 1 o'clock arrived, I was a bit worried. All my texts to him were answered with 1 or 2 word answers. That is strange for him to do. I get a text at 1:45 that he is on his way and that the AF is with him. What? I was never informed that she would be here with the kids. I have no idea if she has been here the whole time or just flew in today. I was furious. I don't care if it's her or anyone else, I want to know who my children will be around. Period. Full stop. So they arrive and I let her into my home. While he sorts through the mail, she stands awkwardly in my foyer. So then I say, I will just tell both of you since you are here, if the kids are going to be around her or anyone else, I want to know. I support your relationship and I'm happy you are here with them, I just want to know beforehand and not after the fact. He looked offended. He smushed his face almost in disbelief. She stood statue still and refused to make eye contact. I understand her position. She was in enemy territory and then I hit her with a bomb. I'm not mad at her, she probably had no idea he didn't tell me. Maybe he lied and said he did, who knows. But she is a mom, I'm sure she gets my point, whether she agrees or not. My issue is with him. I know I'm right, I know it should be a non-discussion, common sense if you will. But no, he left being very cold to me and I started to second-guess my decision to say something. Did I let my emotions get the best of me? Or did he gaslight me and make me feel like I'm crazy? Did they think because we had one meet that she had the green light to play stepmom now? Publicizing paradise. Newlyweds always look forward to their honeymoon. White sandy beaches, topical drinks with little umbrellas, sex all day and all night, paradise right? Well, my STBX and I never took one. We were in the process of buying a house and could not afford to do both. Well, I say we were buying a house but in reality it was me. I put the 20% down and the mortgage deed is in my name because he was broke and had terrible credit. But, he said he was okay with skipping the honeymoon and that when we were married for 10 years we could take that honeymoon together. Super sweet, right? Well, we booked the Bahamas trip for August 2020 but COVID had other plans. Thanks COVID face with rolling eyes. Then as you all know, him and the AF started their little relationship in September of 2020. Well, this weekend he took our honeymoon trip, with her. A lot of really crappy things have happened since I found out about the affair in November, but this one really hurt. I gave this man 13 years of my life, 2 kids, a home, bought him 2 cars, made countless meals, stayed up with newborns and sick children, shuttled the kids to activities, etc. And my reward for years of doing literally everything was taking her on the trip we booked together. He really twisted the knife he plunged into me with this one. So this past weekend I unplugged, took the boys to the beach and had our own mini vacation. I was keeping myself occupied and spent time making memories with the boys. Saturday evening after the boys are in bed my phone rings. It's my ex-Mil. She probably is just checking up on the kids. A bit of backstory, they've had a rocky relationship over the years and he does not speak to her for things that I found out later were mostly just lies and stories he made up in his head. Anyway, I ignored the call. I just didn't feel like chatting. A few minutes later my ex-Sil calls me. Now I think something is wrong. I answer. She is concerned and angry. Are you okay? What's going on? Have people been calling you? I was so confused. Well, as it turns out his AF took a picture of them together in the Bahamas, posted to her Facebook and tagged my STBX. What? I was in complete shock. Let me explain. A lot of people don't know about our situation. I haven't told my extended family, most of my coworkers and even some friends. He was so paranoid about his family finding out because he knew they would be upset, especially his grandmother who thinks he is the golden child. So, there it is. Out in social media for all to see. Our shared family members, my coworkers and friends. I was livid. He took away the possibility of us salvaging our marriage with his affair. My hands were tied, he was in love with someone else. Fine, now he took away my privacy. My marital status is now out there for all to know. Again, I was stripped of the ability to make a decision for myself and tell people on my own time. I went through my phone and saw I had missed calls from 2 coworkers and a friend. I can only assume that's why they called. I haven't called them back because I don't know what to say. Haha, yay, I'm separated. Yay, I didn't want to tell people till I was legally divorced. Yes, he has a girlfriend. Sure, I'll retell the story and live through that pain again, no problem. So I confronted him via text. His response: we are divorced in everything but the paperwork. You've gone on dates and living your life just like I am. What? You mean the only thing that really signifies a divorce is the one things we don't have? What an idiot. And yes, I've gone on a handful of dates but I'm not posting about each one. to social media and sending selfies to our family and friends. Look, I get it. You are in a relationship and you are happy. That is great. All I'm asking for is a little respect. You publicizing your vacation with her also affects me. But, I guess you have to give a shit first to recognize that. I want you all to know I read each and every one of your comments. A lot of you have stated that I need to start doing for me. I want you all to know that I hear you and I agree with you. I have been wrestling with a decision for the past few weeks now concerning my future and the boys' well-being. Today when I pick up the boys from his apartment I am going to tell him my plan in which I require his signature. I hope he doesn't fight me on this. It's what's best. I don't want to reveal too much or my reasoning as you never know who is reading. I will update you all soon. Home sweet home. Months ago when we started the mediation process there was a great deal of negotiating. We both flip-flopped on our wants and made compromises. One thing I was never willing to compromise was retaining the house in the divorce. I made concessions and declined alimony but never wavered on the house. It was agreed that the house would be 100% mine and there would be no alimony. Now, because my STBX was so done with the mediation process and looking forward to his new life, he never took the time to have the house properly assessed. Instead he opted to just take a number off an outdated website and use that as our base point to figure out home value. Idiot. Our mediator did the numbers based on what we owe on the house and what our profits would each be. Then she figured out what alimony over a period of time would be and it was close to what his profit for the house would be. So he agreed to the arrangement. But, the home value was inaccurate. He didn't know that, but I did. So, now that our divorce agreement filed into court has me owning the house, which is only in my name by the way, I had to have him sign off that I could sell it before the divorce was finalized and that he could not retain any of the profit from the sale. He came over to pick up the boys and I talked to him about it. I explained how a move would help the boys as we would go live with my mother who lives in a fabulous school district. It would also help me to not struggle financially and allow me to return to school for my third degree without worrying about tuition or childcare. Our kids would have round-the-clock care from me and my retired parents and be close to their cousins who also live in that town. He agreed it was a good idea, signed the paperwork and left. I immediately sent the papers to my lawyer. A weight has been lifted off my shoulders. The next morning I awake to a long text message from him. With time to think and time to speak to his AP probably, he became very angry. He accused me of making a selfish decision and it wasn't best for the boys. So you mean to tell me a better school system, town-sponsored sports teams, living with grandparents who have time to spend with them, going to school with their cousins of the same age and allowing me the ability to not struggle financially and provide them with more is a selfish idea? So I asked him, when he plans to move across the country to be with AP, will that move be in the best interest of the boys or him? Silence. He knew I was right so he switched gears. He then complained about the commute for him to pick up and drop off. I reminded him this move adds to my daily work commute as well and is not just an issue for him. But it would benefit the boys so I'm willing to do it. Plus it's only 18 miles farther from him. It isn't clear across the state. Then the real reason, he wants money. He said he deserves some of the profit. For the money he contributed for 10 years. Okay, I see your point, but you gave me the house willingly after I declined alimony. Then you signed off willingly that I could sell before the marriage was finalized. You should have done your research about what the house was worth like the mediator suggested instead of just relying on the internet. If I give you a dime it's out of the goodness of my heart because I'm not obligated to do anything for you. So I asked him, after all these months and what you put me through, do you deserve my kindness? He changed the subject and complained about something else. Avoiding the question and the obvious answer. Now I get to truly start over. My boys and I will be surrounded by family who love and support us. I will have zero financial worries, be able to return to school, put money away for the boys' college and have enough left to put down on another home when the housing market settles down. This is a decision that was necessary for my future and the future of my boys. I've been waiting to get to the point to be able to do this and the time is now. The boys will start in a new school with their cousins in September and I am already looking into town sports and activities for them. I know my STBX is angry and bitter about this, especially since his hands are tied. But he made a decision for himself a few months ago to start this affair and that was exactly how I felt. Now we both move on and look towards the future we selected for ourselves. Layups and rebounds. The past few days I spent at the beach with my dearest friend and her children. The kids played, ate pizza, swam and made great memories. We all did. I appreciated the mental break from life and just kicking back and soaking in all life has to offer. In the evening we tucked in our children, who were rightfully exhausted, and then sat outside in the warm salty air and talked. We sipped white wine and gabbed for most of the evening. It was so lovely and a reminder that good friends are so necessary. The family that you can choose. Of course our conversation drifted from time to my STBX, and that is to be expected. She started speculating on why and when and all other factors that could have led to his decision, and there were so many questions. After finishing our glasses we came to the conclusion that there is no rhyme or reason and logic fails us in this inquiry. What we did start to explore, which I had not previously, was what were her motivations. She legally divorces and a month later is dating my STBX. Granted they were friends and former colleagues, but to jump right into serious dating less than a month after a divorce seemed strange. My friend then said, she didn't even get the chance to have a rebound. Then it hit me, is my STBX the rebound? A man was giving her comfort during a difficult time, giving her gifts, flying to her, etc. Is it possible this is a safe and comfortable rebound for her? Aside from regular visits, he has flown out there 3 times just to accompany her to weddings. During my investigation before confrontation I read multiple messages from him telling her that he loved her and she did not reciprocate that sentiment. Maybe she does now, but she did not then. Again, I know this is futile, a waste of my time and will be fruitless, but I'm so curious to this possibility. I know many have stated that I speak too much about him, should move on, live my life, I am woman hear me roar, but the real truth is this post is therapy to me. A diary entry if you will. At no point did I ever expect or promise to be a role model or a beacon of shiny light to struggling victims of infidelity. Instead, I am being honest and truthful to what surviving a cheater looks like. It's unforgiving, it's empowering, it's a struggle, and most importantly, it's a process. So yes, I will get to the happy place we all hope for, but until then this is the journey. Take the ride with me and see the reality, or sit on the sidelines and wait for the happy ending. Makes no difference to me because I'm strapped in and gunning the gas. Buckle up buttercup because it's full speed ahead. The red eye. Back in May of this year I made the custody schedule that my STBX and I currently follow. I took into consideration all of his visits out to see her and I structured a fair and equal schedule. Again, that was May. He left on Wednesday evening to go visit her and he was set to take a red eye home last night Sunday and then pick the boys up this morning. I confirmed the pickup times before he left and even during the day Sunday. I awoke to this message today. While I was not happy he seems sincere and I understand flights are currently unpredictable. I had appointments scheduled for today and plans this evening which I had to reschedule. I had to also explain to the boys that the schedule for today had now changed. I told him he should probably avoid red eyes moving forward and he agreed. Again, I'm relaying all of this to you very calmly, but I was a bit frustrated and annoyed this morning. Then I retold the story to my sister and she commented, it seems weird that he got the same exact flight time. Sunday flight schedules are usually different than Mondays. She was right. So, I looked up the airport he was flying out of and there was no delayed or cancelled flight scheduled for that time on Sunday evening. He was lying. He never scheduled a flight for Sunday. He was always due to return Monday evening, he just didn't bother to tell me. When I called him out on it and asked for his flight cancellation information, he just sent the new flight for this evening and said he wasn't going to get into this with me today. All I asked for was a screenshot from his United account showing the flight was cancelled and he couldn't do that. Instead he just insisted I was crazy and failed to provide any evidence that he was in fact telling the truth. This is a great example of what he does. On the exterior he is kind and apologetic, but deep down he is manipulative and sneaky. Then when I call him on the BS he is defensive and dismissive. I'm frustrated because he is always telling me we need to communicate better and meanwhile he still refuses to do so. Do as I say, not as I do. I wonder if the AP knows he did this. I doubt it. This woman is welcoming this pathological, manipulative liar into her life and she has no idea. I honestly feel bad for her, but I guess that's what you get when you knowingly poach a cheater. He is probably telling her I'm going off on him for a completely different reason. Always making me the bad guy. I feel a bit defeated because I know while he lives here and we share this custody arrangement he will continue to take advantage and manipulate me. Then he gaslights me into thinking I'm crazy. It's a cycle that I don't know how to break. The part that angers me the most is if he would have told me before he left that he needed an extra day I would have been accommodating. I wouldn't have booked appointments or made evening plans. I would have said, okay, and told him I'd like to just tack on an extra day somewhere for me. No harm, no foul. Why couldn't he just do that? Why build a story about being at the airport most of the night, talking to flight reps for 2 hours, trying to get earlier flights that were booked or expensive? Why do any of that? Who are you protecting? I honestly don't understand his motivations or reasoning. All I know is that I need this behavior to stop so I can go about my life. Money matters. First and foremost, let me just say, the audacity of my STBX will never cease to amaze me. With that being said, let's talk about money. January 2020, my STBX and I created an MSA. This MSA had me declining alimony and keeping the house. Come March 2020, he wanted to change the MSA for a different custody arrangement, not for the house or other assets. June 2020, we sign our MSA, but in our state, once the paperwork is served to the defendant, they have 30 days to contest the MSA. Spoiler, he did not contest. July 2020, I decide I want to sell the house, so I have him sign another legal document waiving his right to the home and any equity profit from sale. Now we fast forward to September 2020. He wants the house. I swear this man makes his own rules. Luckily I had hired a lawyer already, and she explained to me that his chances of getting the house now are non-existent, but he could fight the relocation of the children. She explained that would be a lengthy procedure and very expensive on both of our ends. I know for a fact my STBX is struggling financially, so I called his bluff. I told him to get a lawyer. I can prove financially that I need to sell the house. I can also show they are moving to a far better school district, will be attending school with their cousins, have more opportunity for extracurriculars, and will have round-the-clock care from grandparents. I took the children to see their new school and it is quite amazing. The kids are so excited to go to their new school. I have all of the chips stacked in my favor. Also, our MSA has him tentatively moving out of state at some point. Why would a judge agree to keep them closer to their dad if he will be leaving soon? His defense for the relocation: it's a long drive. Really, the commute went from 12 miles to 28 miles. I didn't move across the state. Is it convenient? No, I get that, but it's not impossible. He suggested the boys start their new school in January. January? He said they should stay in the house until it is sold. This suggestion makes no sense. If the commute is your issue, how does that commute change in January? Newsflash: it doesn't. It makes zero sense to have the kids start a routine only to pull them out. They will start a new school and be behind on whatever curriculum they are teaching. So I thought about it, what is his motivation to push for January? Then I realized, his lease is up in March. He is probably moving to her state. So a commute from January to March is much easier than September to March. Once again, a decision made in his best interest and not in the boys. I think he sees the odds are not in his favor on this one and he has stopped fighting me. For now. So money. It makes the world go round, right? It apparently makes my divorce more complicated as well. Insert eye roll. My STBX, since learning I would be selling the house, has asked me on different occasions for $5K, then $10K, then $15K, and now with the threat of lawyers, $20K. Did you eat paint chips as a kid? 'Cause you are serious delusional. You are entitled to nothing. If I give you a dime, it's because I want to, and you can't give me a dollar amount that I am gifting you. It's my money, buddy. I told him I'm no longer entertaining talks of money with him. He knows he's at my mercy and I kinda like it. Lastly, I received a Facebook message on 8/23 which I never saw because the person was not my friend. I saw it yesterday and lo and behold, it's the app's ex-husband. He says to me, "Hi, insert real name, it's insert APX name. How are you? I feel like we should talk. Maybe we can help each other figure some things out. I just wanted to reach out and see if you wanted to talk about anything." I am not really that surprised. They talked for years. Wow, plot twist. I've heard terrible stories about him. But the AP has heard terrible stories about me which were untrue. Could she be as big of a liar as my STBX? Could the Apex know more than I do about their affair when it comes to timeline? Maybe he knows a move date. I feel like this is a conversation I should entertain, but cautiously. I messaged him back and I'm awaiting a reply. I will post once I have some answers. The Apex, the 10th of September 21. Readers, I'm sorry it has been so long, especially with the cliffhanger I left you with. My life, as usual, has been a bit upside down. Between moving, selling the house, starting back to in-person school and my graduate program, I don't know if I'm coming or going. But I of course made time to speak with the app's ex-Apex. First of all, as I stated in previous post, I was told this man was a terrible person. A drunk, a gambler, a womanizer, etc. And stupid me, I listened. But now I can hear the other side of the story. One that isn't tainted by my ex and his AP. I learned so much, so forgive me if it seems all jumbled. I have no idea where to start. So in a nutshell, here is what I learned. He did have a drinking problem but got sober in 2017. The apex has known that they have talked for years and unlike me, knew there was romance brewing. I learned that my STBX met her a few years ago for dinner when she was in the area for work and he told her that he loved her. She told her so and he said he knew at that moment something would happen with them eventually and he shut down emotionally with her. That was the beginning of the end for him. He confirmed my notion that she liked to be fawned over. He suspects she entertained my STBX for the attention and to receive attention from her, so. Gross, right? Anyways, they were not meshing and grew apart. They did not divorce in September of 2020 as I was told, but instead they separated at that time and weren't legally divorced till March 2021. Even grosser, right, she raked this man over the coals financially as well. She closed out their joint account and took all the money and then filed for divorce. What a peach, huh? She brought up his 2017 rehab stint to get full custody with supervised visitation for him. She is also introducing him to her family and friends as her new boyfriend and leaving out the affair and the fact that he is married still. The apex is apparently still friendly with her family and some friends and wants to make sure that this fact becomes common knowledge. Justified exposure and I'm here for it. The apex also thought my STBX was already living in their state and was not aware he was staying in her house with her when he visits. Spoiler, it's his house, not hers. Needless to say he is not happy about this. He was also not aware till he found me on Facebook that we had children together. Apparently this wasn't an important detail for the AP to bring up when she mentioned my STBX to him. He also confirmed that she is a spender, money is like water, and she will probably bleed my STBX dry. We ended our hours-long text chain with a job for each other. He is tasked with finding out the official move date for my STBX and he would like to know when he is traveling to their state and staying in their house. Phew, that was a lot. I hope you were able to digest all of that. I had a rather expensive phone call with my lawyer the other day. It turns out he can challenge the MSA for the house but it will be a long process and the divorce will probably be finalized by the time it goes through. She also said the timing isn't good, as he had his 35 days to dispute the MSA and he has waited until after I put the house on the market to fight for it. She assures me the judge will see this as a backpedaling money grab on a legal document that we both agreed to and not support it. As for my relocation, he can also dispute that but I officially live in this new town and have completely moved out of my house. My STBX claims I violated my MSA with legal custody enrolling them in a new school. My lawyer again reminded me I am the custodial parent and if I move they have to go to school wherever I live. He is still pushing for the $20,000 and my lawyer is confident he has zero grounds for receiving it and will ultimately give up this fight as it's an expensive legal process and he is currently in the red financially. Oh, get this, the boys had their first day of school on Thursday, 9/9, and I was going to pick them up from my STBX place on 9/8 and bring them with me so that they can start fresh in the morning. The evening of 9/8 was technically his night to have them but he agreed to me taking them days prior. So he sends me a text claiming that 9/8 was his night and he would keep them home on their first day of school unless I agree to the $20,000. Excuse me, did you just hold my children prisoner for a check? Are you admitting truancy? I told my lawyer this and she balked. She said this will be the first screenshot she presents if and when we go to court. Bottom line, nothing is in his favor. His AP is trying to squeeze me like she did her ex. But baby girl, you don't know me, so you obviously don't know who you are fucking with. Playing the Long Game, September 20th, 21. Have you ever seen A Bronx Tale? It's a classic coming-of-age mafia drama with a touch of romance and a dash of racial tension. Okay, I'm no Siskel and Ebert, but I think this film is must-watch. Lately I've been thinking about this film much more. There is a scene in the movie in which the young protagonist is angry at a kid who has not paid him back $20 that he lent him. Sonny, the wise crime boss father figure asks him, was he a good friend of yours? And the young man replies, no, I don't even fucking like him. So Sonny tells him, there's your answer right there. Look at it this way, it cost you $20 to get rid of him. He's out of your life forever. I keep circling back to this scene because I feel like it is so relevant to me now. My wish, selfish as it may seem to some, has always been that my STBX would move away and leave my boys and I to move on peacefully. Is it possible that by giving him a check that I could make this happen? Again, I'm just toying with this idea. I know my STBX. I know what he ultimately wants, and that's to leave and start a life with her. If I give him money, I would be financing his move out of my life. Let me explain how I know this to be true. Last week when we argued about money and he asked for a ridiculous sum of $20K to pay for his expenses of shuffling the boys back and forth and wear and tear on his car, I called his bluff. I told him I'd give him the $20K but stipulated that he can't move out of state for 2 years. He was enraged at this. You can't tell me what to do with it and where I can live, blah blah blah. If he really wanted money to pay for commuting expenses for the kids like he claimed, he would have snatched this deal. But he didn't, so I know he has no intention of staying. So if I decide to give him money, it would only be carried out after he signs a legal document stating that he is receiving a one-time payment. I have been more open to this idea because 1. I want him to go, 2. My house is under contract and I am receiving well over asking, 3. If he moves out of state he owes me close to $1K a month in child support and I'll make my initial investment back in no time. But I also hate the idea. This man bet it all and won. I was the victim and I lost, and I feel like I keep losing. I know I'm playing the long game here, and years from now when the AP bleeds him dry and or he cheats again cause he will and or my kids grow to learn what he did and want not part of him, I will have won. But I feel like for that to happen I have to take some lumps now. I'm going all 3 rounds and the bell hasn't even rung for the end of the first. I have a lot of thinking and talking to my lawyer to do. Is it another loss for me to give him the money, or is it just another of my elaborate yet patient plans like the one that started this post months ago? I'm still debating. Father of the Year, September 24, 21. Sometimes, and only sometimes, my life shocks even me. I sit back and look at the situation and think, this poor girl. How did she ever get here? Then I snap back to reality and realize that poor girl is me. Just when I think the worst has been done and I've seen it all, another event surprises even me. It's like I'm walking around in complete state of disbelief and my jaw is locked in an open and stupefied position. 4 very short days ago I actually had a moment of weakness and entertained the idea of giving him what he wanted yet again and signing a check over to him. And then, just to kick himself in the pants, today happens and now there is zero doubt in my mind. He will never see anything from me and that's the only thing he will be able to take to the bank. Wednesday and Thursday night, according to this month's custody schedule that he made, were supposed to be his overnights. He told me a few days ago that he had to be in work very early Friday morning and asked if he could drop the boys off Thursday evening and lose his night with them due to work. I said, okay, and we kept it moving. Today, Friday, while at work I get a text from Apex. The AP text him to warn him that my STBX would be there at 8 a.m. Saturday morning to watch their oldest child's sports practice. She wanted to give him a heads up and asked Apex to be respectful. This would be the first time they have met. Apex isn't thrilled about it and I don't blame him. But, Apex texted me to give me a heads up that he was in their state. But wait, how could this be? He had to go into work this morning. He usually works from home #thanks COVID, and there is no way he could be there. So I thought about it. How could I figure out that he took a flight this morning or potentially after work today? Then I remembered, he has my Easy Pass in his car. If you don't know what Easy Pass is, it is a toll pass transponder that allows you to zip through road tolls but records the date, time and location. So, I returned to my Nancy Drew days of yore and logged into my account. And there it was. He left his apartment at the first toll at 5:58 a.m. and exited at the toll for the airport at 6:03. Yes, it's a short distance, especially at 6 a.m. This was not the direction he needed to head to for work. He obviously boarded a plane this morning. So he gave up an evening with his kids, on a night he scheduled, to go to see her and her children, and then lied to me about it. Just to be at her son's practice and eat dinner with them and not his own boys. Ladies and gents, I present to you, Father of the fucking Year. So I call him, multiple times. No answer and forwarded to VM most of the times as well. Then I text him, he reads but does not respond. Then he finally responds almost 3 hours later and says he was on a plane and wasn't ignoring me and he didn't board until after he was done with work, which was after 1 p.m. Then I tell him I've seen the Easy Pass and he reads my messages and doesn't respond. He has been caught. He has no defense. Caught in a timestamped lie. How can you defend yourself from that? Spoiler, you can't. But honestly, I'm happy. So happy. He helped me make my decision about the money. For the tiniest second I thought we were going to reach common ground and be amicable. That, we've established mutual respect and we're going to be forthcoming adults. Ha 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 ha, stupid me, he's an idiot and incapable of that. Insert facepalm slap. So, I deactivated the easy pass, have fun paying tolls on your way home. He's broke and can't afford a lawyer's retainer, so he just paid a fee to have a document drafted that asks for the 20K. I'm supposed to sign it and return it to him. I told my lawyer to ignore the letter. It's not a filed motion, it's a letter asking, no, begging, for money he doesn't deserve. So it will be ignored. Want to take me to court? Pay a lawyer like I did. And then after you wasted money you don't have, on a case that I have checked and double-checked that I can't lose, then maybe you'll see how royally screwed you really are. Chess game September 27, 21. At about 10:30 a.m. I had to text him. I didn't want to, I want to start keeping him at arm's length. But I had to make sure he was picking the boys up from school. So I texted him and asked for confirmation. He seemed confused as to why I needed confirmation. Perhaps it's because you are irresponsible and completely unpredictable. I had questions for him about why he lied, but I realized asking would be futile. He would just lie, or gaslight, or even ignore. So I decided to do the same. Why am I jeopardizing my sanity? It's like pulling teeth, and honestly, all the teeth are rotten. But then, to my surprise, he starts interrogating me. He has questions about Apex. Well, apparently Apex spoke to the AP and stated that he questioned my STBX's character since he is still married. Her response: they separated before we did lie, and their paperwork has been in the courts for over a year waiting to be processed. Second lie. I think I see why my STBX and her get along so well. Literally made for each other. Anyway, Apex knew when we separated and that we are still married. So he retorted that we've only been separated since 12/2020. And this is why men can't be trusted. I trusted Apex with a little bit of info and our cover is blown. My STBX wanted to know how he knew this, since apparently me, him and the AP are the only ones who know we are still legally married. What's wrong, honey? Afraid people will find out your dirty little secret? Her friends and family will find out that she is a husband stealer. Yikes, that won't help the perfect little image you have. My STBX claimed the Apex is scum, unsafe, can't be trusted, and if I'm talking to him I need to stop. Wait, hold up, did you just try to tell me what to do? I'm sorry, you must have me confused with someone who has to listen to you. 'Cause I know damn well that's not me. So I ask, what does it matter if I talk to him? I didn't choose to have children with him. If he is so unstable, her procreating with him is more unsafe than me speaking to him. This sounds like a her problem and not a me problem. Again, I think him saying he is unsafe for the children is using her kids as the scapegoats. I think they are just afraid of their dirty laundry being aired. Concerning the neglecting of our kids to hop a plane to her state, he claims that I have it all wrong. Warning, here comes the lies and gaslighting. He claims he drove to the airport in the morning, boarded mass transit and headed to work. Then returned to the airport and hopped a plane. Are you crazy? This is the craziest thing I've ever heard. Not to mention he lives in a commuter town, closer to the city he works in than the actual airport. How does this even make sense? My reply: listen, blank, it doesn't matter. I don't ever expect you to be honest, and that's fine. You've lied to me for over a decade and I don't expect any of that to change. It doesn't matter, it's app's issue now, not mine. Then he went on to defend himself, claiming he hasn't lied about a thing. A dear friend told me, he thinks he is playing you and winning, but he is playing this game alone. I'm not a competitor sitting across from him at the chessboard. Each time he thinks he's winning by dealing me a blow, he's actually hurting himself. Every lie he tells makes it a little bit easier to not give a shit. Every stupid, selfish thing he does only helps my case against him. He is playing this chess game by himself and every winning move is a loss. Only once the divorce is finalized, and the chessboard is cleared, will he see that his king has fallen and all the pieces are mine.